The Indian philosophers are actually amazing, even beyond the Greeks. I mean, nobody really appreciates it. Even whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, they're amazing. And therefore, in the thing about philosophy, which has to do with the view, your view, and the first branch of the Eightfold Path, remember, is what people often translate as right view, which I don't like. I really like, and I learned it from Alan Wallace, realistic view. So, samyak and mithya, or sama and mithya in the Sanskrit or Pali, are realistic and unrealistic rather than right and wrong. And realistic view is the acceptance of causality and relativity, and infinite causality and relativity, and therefore with the acceptance of that comes the acceptance of the evolutionary possibility of Buddhahood, and enlightenment, that enlightenment is possible, this kind of thing. That's realistic view. And so, but since it's an acceptance of causality, it's an acceptance of connection, in a way, rather than a dogmatic idea. But then there's many different varieties in Buddhist philosophy, where this is our view and that is our view, the mind-only view, the view of the reality of every moment of time, the view of this, there's many. But they're considered in the Indian Buddhist university system, and eventually Tibetan university system. The highest one is called, I call it the dialecticist centrist. Madhyamaka meaning is middle way view, but then the dialecticist one, I call it dialectical, you could say, but I have a reason for saying dialecticist, like a dialectical, which means that the supreme position is the position of no position. The supreme view is the view of no view, what they call, but it doesn't mean that you just nihilistically have no view. What it means is that you have complete space in your mind, that when you encounter a dogmatic or dogged view, a person who's living more in their view than in their body or life, you can give complete weight to it, rather than opposing it, countering it with your view, which it collides with. And of course, you're not giving way to it because anything is right. All views are equally wrong or right, or some sort of wrong thing, mistaken idea. You're giving way to it because before that person can, by seeing the consequences of their view that are untenable, and thereby beginning to have a tiny twinge of doubt about their view, nothing you say to them can be of benefit to them. So the dialecticist means that you allow the consequences of someone's view to emerge by giving them the full steps. Yes, well, this, of course, that, and then, and eventually they reach a point where there's some collision or some problem, which may not affect right away, but until they can see some absurdity in this rigidity that they're holding, they won't listening to anything anyway. And then the way of confirming them their rigidity is to counter with the rigidity. So there's something called a dogmaticist centrist, who's not exactly dogmatic, but like a dogmatic, which is a next lower step. So the dialecticist centrist is the one with no view. The Nagarjuna says that, the great Nagarjuna. And if you look in, say, my Central Philosophy of Tibet book, if you're really into this type of philosophy thing, you can see it laid out very, very much in detail. It's really beautiful, actually. It's so fantastic. It's very difficult to do. If someone comes and they give you this thing, and then to not say, oh, that's wrong, but to say, really? And then, if that's so, then would that be so? Yeah. And then would that be so? Yeah. And then would that be so? Yeah, and it's going again. And then finally, well, then in that case, would that and that both be so? Like you'd be white and black at the same time, or you'd be stupid and intelligent at the same time? And then they were like, well, wait a minute, no, you tricked me. They'd come to this conclusion of their own thing. And they realize, and then people will say, well, it's non-rational anyways, you're just playing word games. People will do a lot of things. But the point is, then you have a chance to help them overcome the suffering of being trapped by a fanatical view. And the human being, what is the suicide bombing? Is where you're going to kill yourself over a view of your rightness and their evil. Do you know what I'm saying? So people will actually live so much in their views that they will take their own lives for their views. You know, whereas realistic view is a causality. You still might give your life over something, but not over a disconnected thing like some stereotype concept. You wouldn't throw your life or take anybody's life over it. You know, your own or anybody else's. So that's called the prasangika madhyamika in Sanskrit. Prasanga means an absurd consequence into which you will be stuck. So prasaj means to get stuck in something. So the thing is to get out of the way of the bull until it gets stuck.
That's fantastic.
In its own consequences. And that's the sort of cream of Buddhist philosophy.